Hi, I'm Ksenia Trukova. Thanks for watching my channel. So, as you already know, they announced the partial mobilization in Russia, which in fact doesn't look like a partial mobilization. It looks like a normal one, but they use a euphemism again, as they often do. So, in this video, I'm going to analyze Putin's speech about that. And it was interesting for me as a linguist to compare his recent speech given on September 21st to the one given on February 24th. When the war started. They have certain similarities because Putin uses the same rhetorical tools and the same words over and over again, but at the same time there are some differences I would like to point out. First of all, let me start with a small test. Let me offer you a small test. Let's pretend we don't know we're talking now about Putin's speech. I will read some phrases to you and you will try to understand what is your first association with them and which country are they associated with. Occupation regime, atrocities in the occupied areas of the Kharkiv region. People are killed, tortured, thrown into prison, bombing hospitals and schools. At the same time, the regime of repression against its own citizens has strengthened in the most severe way. If you read these words out of context, then there will be no doubt we are talking about Russia. These are exactly the words we hear in the statements of the world politicians and officials and in media reports around the world. However, surprise, in fact, these are words that were said about Ukraine. Their author is Vladimir Putin, who in his address on September 21st, by the way, International Day of Peace, announced a partial mobilization in Russia. And here we can see an illustration of the method of mirroring, which has already been well studied over half a year of that war. What is mirroring? It's when you take your opponent's words towards you and use them towards your opponent. The purpose of this technique is to create a feeling of, inverted reality and loss of coordinates. It's a typical technique of gaslighting as a form of psychological violence, the main goal of which is to make a person doubt the adequacy of his perception of the surrounding reality. I call it upside down reality, like in this popular series Stranger Things. Putin uses the same wordings and techniques over and over again. His speech on September 21st, although twice as short as the one delivered on February 24th, almost completely repeats it. The main message in that speech is that the West is to blame for what is happening. The West is responsible. West actually forced Russia to start the war. West left Russia no choice, and so on. This is the main message. In the speech of February 24th, the West and NATO appeared immediately, literally in the first 30 seconds of the speech. However, on September 21st, Putin mentions the West later in the first part of his address when he focuses on the situation in Donbass and recalls the coup d'etat of 2014. So Putin refers to the events that are no longer relevant to his audience, as if he turns on an old TV recording, like from 8 years ago. And it's also interesting that on February 24th, Putin mentioned neo-Nazis only 3 times. His speech of September 21st is literally crammed with this word. 14 mentions in almost 15 minutes. It means that on average, he utters the word neo-Nazi every minute. On the one hand, here we see an emphasis on bloodthirsty neo-Nazis who torture people, and on the other hand, an emphasis of the bloodthirsty West, which according to Putin crossed every line and does not allow Kiev to negotiate peace. If it was clear from Putin's first speech that the West created a dangerous situation in Ukraine and the Ukrainian citizens themselves were victims of the regime, then his September speech shifts the focus. Both the West and the neo-Nazis appear in it almost equal in the danger and destructive force, if you will. What is that about? Probably another trick works here. The viewer is bombarded with narratives that often contradict each other. The use of such a tool allows him to provide a range of propaganda messages, like in a grocery store, big choice, from which each person can choose something to their taste. Another difference between the September speech and the February one is a threat to the world, and those who are trying to blackmail us with the nuclear weapons should know that the windrows can turn around, says Putin. Putin refers to such concepts as the territorial integrity of Russia, and here again we see mirroring. Mirroring is used because the world considers Russia to be responsible precisely for violating the territorial integrity of Ukraine. As a reason for announcing the mobilization, Putin uses all the same motives: protection from the Nazis in the West, historical mission, and the special role of Russia. However, such motivation in September 2022 hardly seems convincing to Russians. On the same day after the mobilization was announced, dozens of people went on the streets to protest and were arrested. A cult Russian pop singer, Alla Pugacheva, just a couple of days before, wrote an anti-war Instagram post about the illusory nature of the goals of this war. And they are illusory indeed, because after all, the Kremlin has not defined any specific goals, only the abstract ones. I believe in your support, Putin ended his February 24th speech. I believe in your support, he says the same words on September 21st. However, the response of those who are offered to believe then and now is very different.